morning.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Today, I'm flying business class on SQ262, departing at 6:45 am. The sell is simple. You land in Singapore just before lunch, giving you a full head start on the day. But the reality, it means checking in at 4+ am. Check-in was seamless. With just one person ahead of me, I had my boarding pass in no time. Even the express immigration felt like overkill at this hour. I was through security and into the departure hall in under 5 minutes, because anyone who flies out of Sydney knows this place becomes a proverbial zoo by noon. The Singapore Airlines SilverKris Lounge is located near Gate 58. It's a bit of a hike from immigration, so allow yourself a solid 10 minutes to get there. After the long walk, head up the escalator and you're greeted by the signature batik pattern entrance. This lounge was recently refreshed in August 2024 to bring it in line with the high-end aesthetic of the Changi flagship. While it's nowhere near to the size, scale, and amenities of the Changi flagship, it's furnished with modern, tasteful decor. The zoning is thoughtful too, ranging from a main dining area to a quieter living room space and those high-walled productivity pods for the business crowd. To be honest, I've never particularly enjoyed Singapore Airlines outstation lounges, even though they are generally better than the run-of-the-mill priority pass lounges. But the standout here, and my personal favourite, is the dedicated coffee bar, serving coffee from 7 Miles Coffee Roaster. Australia takes its coffee culture very seriously, and having a barista make your drink to order is a massive step up from a push-button machine. For a 6:45 am departure, a proper Aussie flat white is exactly what you need before boarding. As for the food spread, it does the job by catering to both Eastern and Western palates. They've got rice noodles and vegetables on one side, and a full-blown Western breakfast with scrambled eggs, bacon, sausages, cold cuts, and cheese on the other. And for those with a sweet tooth, there's a bakery section with banana bread, muffins, sweet danishes, and croissants. And not to mention a dedicated toasting station for loading up on Vegemite like a proper local. The bar is where things get interesting. Aside from the French outlier, the Mumm champagne, there's a heavy emphasis on Australasia wines, with offerings like Penfolds, Cabernet Sauvignon, Hentley Farm Shiraz, and a Black Cottage Pinot Noir from New Zealand. I didn't see the whites, but I bet it's the standard Aussie Chardonnay or New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc rotation. There's a massive selection of spirits and local beers available too. As for the non-alcoholic options, there is an extensive range of canned drinks from Coke and Sprite to juices and local Aussie staples like Kirk's. But let's be real, unless someone is an absolute specimen, nobody is touching the whiskey or an IPA at 5 in the morning. The shower situation, you've got Priya gels from Italy, Porsche toiletry kits, and Lychee facial mist. It's a bit of an incoherent branding mess, but it gets the job done. I was a little late to boarding as I stayed back to squeeze every last drop of that lounge time. By the time I arrived at the boarding gate, economy boarding was already in full swing, but the gate staff waved me through the premium line pretty quickly.
Thank you so much. Thanks for waiting.
The aircraft today is a Boeing 777-300ER, registration Niner Victor Sierra Whiskey Hotel. At almost 18 years old, she's one of the oldest airframe in the Singapore Airlines fleet.
Hello sir, how are you? Thank you sir, this way.
Because of the endless delays for the Boeing 777X, which was supposed to be launched in 2021, Singapore Airlines has been forced to keep this rapidly aging aircraft in the air far longer than planned. As a result, the next-gen cabin products are stuck in limbo, and we are left with this, the 2013 business class product. While it was a benchmark a decade ago, it's frankly no longer competitive, where carriers like Qatar, Cathay, and Starlux are standardizing privacy doors, wireless charging, and 4K screens. On paper, this hardware is starting to look seriously dated. However, as anyone who flies SQ knows, the magic usually happens through the soft product, through their brilliant service and attention to detail. Once I'm settled into 23k, the sheer real estate of this 2013 product becomes obvious. The seat and the legroom is massive. There's an 18-inch HD screen, which, again, feels inadequate by today's 4K standards. There was a pair of socks and slippers waiting for me right at the seat. The seat controls are all tucked into the side console along with the reading lights. Then comes the hot towel. For the pre-departure drink, I went with the Bellini cocktail. SQ serves it from a premix and only on the ground. Scanning the cabin during pushback, it's remarkably empty today. As we taxi out, the classic safety video kicks in.
Make sure that your seat belt is securely fastened during taxi.
While we taxi, I started to play with the KrisWorld system. There's a tethered controller in the side panel which can be pulled out. It feels slightly retro, but the interface itself is snappy and navigating it with the buttons feel a bit like using a PS5. The content library on SQ is top-notch. The movie selection is massive and very up-to-date, spanning everything from Hollywood blockbusters to Bollywood, Japanese and Chinese cinema. If you are not in the mood for a film, the music selection is just as deep, ranging from modern pop to full classical pieces. As we roll down runway 16 right, the GE90 engines spool up, the most powerful commercial turbofans in the world, roaring to life for the 8-hour trek to Changi. As we rotate, we get a final look at Botany Bay, before heading for an initial cruise of 34,000 feet. There will be one refreshment service and one lunch service on today's flight, starting with the refreshment service coming up shortly after takeoff. Interesting physics fact: the side storage door physically cannot stay upright during climb due to the aircraft's angle of attack. I cracked open the noise-cancelling headphones and the sanitary ear covers. It's alright, serviceable audio quality. Quick pit stop in the lavatory. Back in 2024, they were still featuring the Penhaligon's Quirkers line for the fragrance and lotion. The lav itself is exactly what you expect, barely a step up from economy, with the exception of slightly more bougie amenities. As the crew starts the refreshment service, for the refreshments, the choice is between a selection of dim sum served with fried rice or a kale and quinoa salad with burrata cheese. I asked for a recommendation and she steered me towards the selection of dim sum. The portion was surprisingly ample for a refreshment. It also came with a side of chili that tasted suspiciously familiar. One bite and I instantly clocked it as Lao Gan Ma. If you know, you know. I had to be sure, so after finishing the delicious plate, I asked the stewardess if my hunch was right. She actually went back to the galley to check the jar, came back and confirmed it was Lao Gan Ma. That led to a quick chat about the meal. The SQ magic was on full display. The crew has this effortless ability to engage with you, checking in on the small details and actually noting your preferences. Back in 2024, Singapore Airlines was still providing amenity kits curated by Penhaligons. While the lavatory was stocked with the Quirkers line, the kit itself featured the Luna collection. Inside, you get 3 items: a hand lotion, a facial mist, and a lip balm. Yeah, that's it. If you compare this to the absolute hauls you get on carriers like Qatar, this is easily one of SQ's weakest offerings. It feels a bit lean for a business class product. Despite that, I found myself enjoying the kit, and I actually used these items and the case long after the flight was over. Shortly after refreshment service, the crew offered to make the bed. This 2013 product has no lie flat button. Instead, you have to physically stand up so the crew can flip the backrest over to reveal the mattress. Once it's down, you encounter what most people consider the biggest design flaw of the seat: the footwell. Because of how these are staggered, you are forced to lie at an awkward 45 degrees angle with your feet shoved into a tiny cubby hole. At 178 cm with a US 12 feet, I wasn't too fussed since this was just a day flight. But for an 18-hour flight to New York, I can imagine it being unpleasant. Side sleeping is also effectively a non-option because that footwell is quite restrictive. If you want to avoid that, the bulkhead seats are the way to go for an unrestricted food area. An hour passed and the crew began doing their rounds in the cabin to offer drinks. The stewardess came towards me with a bright smile and asked if I would like anything to drink. I blurted out champagne. On this flight, they were pouring the Heidsieck Brut Reserve champagne. Alongside the champagne, I was also offered a side of warm nuts, which I gladly accepted. So far, the crew on this flight has been top tier. They've been incredibly hospitable and very engaging. I've had some great conversations with a few of them throughout the morning. I often find that SQ crew, especially the local ones, have this ability to straddle between Eastern formality and Western casualness. They know how to read the room, and they know exactly when to engage you or leave you be. It's a level of intuition that's hard to teach. Classy. Roughly 2 hours before arrival, the crew started to serve lunch. Aside from the Heidsieck champagne, they've gone for a balanced mix of old world classics like French Sauvignon Blanc and Bordeaux, and some heavy-hitting new world choices, including an Australian Chardonnay, a Shiraz, and an Argentine Malbec. They've even included a fortified port from Portugal. If wine isn't your thing, they've also got the famous Singapore Sling. The meal began with the chicken Caesar salad. It's a Western classic and very straightforward.
Today's appetizer is Caesar salad.
And it was finished tableside with croutons and dressing, which adds a nice touch of service.
You like a mama?
To go with that, I grabbed the garlic bread and the hard roll from the bakery selection to pair with my butter. For the wine, I went with the Argentine Malbec. It tasted of ripe berries with a very prominent hint of peppercorn. Taste-wise, the salad was solid, savory, acidic, and slightly sweet. It was a very balanced way to start the meal. Then came the highlight, the Book the Cook beef rendang. Out of Sydney, the selection is actually quite limited with only 6 options. The portion was massive, beef cubes piled high alongside fragrant coconut rice and lode vegetables. Because the crew remembered that I enjoyed the Lao Gan Ma chili during the refreshment service, the stewardess brought some out specifically to go with my rendang. Lao Gan Ma is a Chinese condiment. It's not something traditionally served with a Malay or Indonesian dish like beef rendang. But the fact that she noted my preference and proactively brought it out was a fantastic personal touch. The rendang was tender, but there's a term in Singapore called not lemak enough, and this dish was lacking a certain richness to it. To wrap up, I didn't hold back on dessert. The crew actually suggested that I try the entire selection, so I ended up with the mint chip ice cream, the Lychee Mango Tart, the cheese and crackers, and a selection of fresh sliced fruit. By this point, I was completely stuffed. I took small bites of everything, And here's my verdict. If you have a sweet tooth, get the ice cream and the pastry dessert, especially if the dessert is acidic, and have them together. The combo is awesome. Mid-flight, I had a great chat with the crew about specialty coffee, something I'm deeply into. Singapore Airlines provides a selection of single origin coffee by ILLY, and they proactively offered to serve me some after the meal service concluded. They brought out both a Jamaica Blue Mountain and an Ethiopian single origin. Now, to be clear, these are not exactly specialty cafe standard, but man, they hit the spot. With a slightly darker roast, you get more of those chocolatey notes, though the florals and the citric acidity of the Ethiopian. The Jamaica Blue was an interesting one to try. Consumers often think it's the pinnacle of coffee because of the marketing, even though it's actually not that price. Still, it was a decent cup of coffee. This whole interaction was just another case of the SQ magic. When you have a crew you can actually chat with about coffee, who remembers a specific condiment you liked hours ago, and who pushes you to try the entire dessert spread just because they want you to enjoy the flight. It's a level of intuition you just don't see often anymore. They are not just following a checklist, they are actually paying attention and tailoring the experience to you. As we approached top of descent and arrival into Changi, I had a chance to reflect on the 8 hours. The hospitality was top tier. The crew engaged me, noted my preferences, knew when to engage heavily and when to give me space. They basically carried the flight. As for the food, the catering out of Sydney was average, but honestly, I'm not that fast. I thoroughly enjoyed myself on this flight. I can confidently say that service excellence is what makes Singapore Airlines a very special experience, especially in their premium cabins. As good as the service is, the hardware gap is real. That's why I'm looking forward to the new product, launching in the second quarter of 2026. After over a decade with this current seat, the upgrade is going to be massive and will finally bring the cabin in line with current industry standards. Initially, they were going to wait for the 777X to launch new products across all 4 classes. But due to the ongoing delays, they've decided to retrofit the new economy, premium economy, and business class seats onto the current A350 long-haul fleet. The new first class, however, is still being saved for the 777X. In the new business class, we can likely expect the industry essentials: privacy doors, USB-C ports, wireless charging, and 4K screens. But more importantly, we'll finally get a lie-flat bed that isn't at an awkward angle and doesn't require you to stand up to manually convert it. I hope you've enjoyed coming with me on this journey from Sydney to Singapore. I'm curious to hear about your experiences. What was the most memorable service experience you've had on Singapore Airlines? Let me know in the comments below. If you had a great time watching this, drop me a like and subscribe. Lots more to come. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.
To all Singaporeans and residents of Singapore, a warm welcome home. Please remain seated, read your seatbelt fastened, and your seatbelt signs off. Please secure when opening the overcome compartment, and remember, take all your belongings with you. It's been our pleasure to be on this flight. Thank you by Singapore Airlines, for the Star Lion.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay. Thank you. See you. Thank you. See you.
Bye-bye. See you. Thank you. Goodbye. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.